Hello there. It is a Monday afternoon, just after noon, about 12:30. And I'm in Western Seoul, almost as far west as you can go. I'm in a park called Pyeonghwa Park, Peace Park. It's part of a larger set of parks, collectively called World Cup Park. There are 5 parks in all. You've got the Peace Park, you've got Hanu Park, which is right there on this mountain, this hill. Hanu is sky, or sometimes it might be heaven, but in this case they call it Sky Park. And beyond that, you've got Noul Park, which is Sunset Park. You've got Nanji-chun Park, Nanji Stream Park. There is the Han River Park, the Nanji section of the Han River Park right down here. And let's see, Sky Park, Peace Park, Sunset Park, Nanji Stream Park, and the Han River Park. That's all 5. And just to our east, off in this direction, which we will see shortly, is World Cup Stadium. This used to be a little island, well, maybe not so little, but it used to be an island in the Han River called Nanji-do. And it was a site of farmland where they grew peanuts and millet. But in 1977, the government built an embankment, or started construction on an embankment to connect the island to the mainland. And then in 1978, it was designated as a landfill site. So from 1978 to 1993, that's what it was, a landfill. And over time, it became a really bad environmental hazard. But I remember in the early 90s, anytime I took a taxi out to Gimpo Airport, the taxi drivers back then were a lot more talkative than they are today, at least to me. But they used to always like to practice their English and, show me different landmarks around the city or whatever. But anytime we drove past here on the way to Gimpo Airport, the taxi drivers would always point out this mound, and they would call it Garbage Mountain. So in 1996, the government instituted a project to clean the place up, to make it environmentally safe, get rid of the gas that was building up or had built up underground. And in 1997, they designated the area for residential development. And subsequently, in 1998, they started the Sangam Millennium New Town Project. Sangam because we're in Sangam-dong. This is the Sangam neighborhood of Seoul. And on the other side of Sky Park here, just to the north of us, that's west and that's north. But just to the north of us is Digital Media City and all these apartments. Digital Media City is part of what they call Millennium City. That's what the Sangam Millennium Newtown Project was all about, developing this Millennium City. And they also built up the World Cup Stadium. So the World Cup Stadium opened in 2001. This park, all 5 parks of World Cup Park, opened in 2002. And construction on Digital Media City began, I believe, in 2006. And that was supposed to be like this new digital hub. You had some media companies and some tech companies move out here. There's a story there that we're not going to get into today, but maybe for a future video. But today, I'm out here to talk about walkability. I've been wanting to talk about this for a little while. If you've seen my videos, any of my videos before, you know I like to walk. I try to walk at least 10,000 steps every day. Generally, I exceed that. Sometimes I have to cut it short when I'm busy. But yeah, I love walking. And it's something I've been doing on a regular basis for the past couple of years now. If you're visiting Seoul, I think walking is the best way to explore any city. I've been doing that since I left the States in the early 90s with the Army, since I first came here. That's how I used to explore Seoul, was just walking around. I wasn't walking for fun or for exercise back then. It was just all about the exploration. But since I started doing that in the early 90s, anytime I travel abroad, whenever I go to a different city, I always explore it on foot. And that's where walkability comes into play. And I've looked online at different reports about walkability in different cities. And I've seen sites that rank the walkability of different cities. And the problem is, what's, the definition of walkability? I think there are some core components of it that a lot of these research papers and ranking sites focus on, but there's another broader range of criteria that varies from project to project. From my perspective, I just think of it in practical terms. When you're talking about the city streets, the sidewalks, and all of that, you're thinking about infrastructure for pedestrians, right? Pedestrian bridges, overpasses, pedestrian tunnels, crosswalks, that kind of thing. You're also thinking about safety. If I walk along a street, do I have to worry about getting hit by a car, right? Are there a lot of steps around the area, and are the steps in good condition, or are they old, uneven, and easy to trip on? And you also think about pollution, right? I don't want to be walking in heavy pollution, breathing in all this gunk as I'm walking along. So those are aspects of walkability that I think are very important. And I think a lot of research projects focus on those to some degree. And I can tell you that in Seoul, the situation from that perspective is leaps and bounds better than it was 30 years ago. All measures there, the safety, the infrastructure, the pollution. Seoul is much, much more walkable on those metrics than it was 30 years ago. But another aspect of that, the walkability and the improved walkability in Seoul, is this: the green spaces, which right now are all brown because it is late winter. There has been a huge increase in the amount of green space available in Seoul over the past 20 years. From small parks to huge parks like this one. And I mean, this is huge. This is just the Peace Park. And then you've got all these other parks over there in that direction. This is a long strip of land here. You've got the Han River Park, which is multiple sections of parks along the Han River. And this pedestrian bridge here, again, infrastructure. This pedestrian bridge here crosses this busy highway and goes down to the Han River Park. This is the Nanji Hangang Park, the Nanji Han River Park, named for Nanji-do. And along the Han River Park, you've got footpaths, you've got bicycle paths, and these things stretch for miles and miles and miles. You can follow the whole of the length of Seoul. You can cross the entire length of Seoul and beyond on these footpaths and bicycle paths of the Han River. And they extend into or along the streams and rivers that connect to the Han River. It's a massive network of footpaths and bicycle paths, just amazing. There was a period when I rode a bicycle pretty frequently, back and forth between my gigs during the day. And I would often ride along the Han River. If you like cycling, by the way, I recommend you take a look at Probably Riding. His channel is all about cycling through Seoul. He goes pretty much everywhere on his bicycle, and he films it. So it's a great introduction to the city by bike. And also, if you're going to be riding in Seoul, you can pick up some good tips from him. But this is just our starting point, and there are other green spaces we're going to go through today. And I've chosen to go along this path because they're somewhat connected. I mean, you have to go out into the city streets at some points along the way, but so it is a bit of a broken path, but it is a path of mostly green space that goes from here into central Seoul, actually to a point very close to my house. So I could have started there and come out this way to end here. And that, I think, is a more probably common route that people would take. If you're in central Seoul, you can walk out this way through a good bit of green space to get here. So if you wanted to visit World Cup Stadium or Hongdae, Hongdae is on our route today, the popular district, tourist district these days. And there is World Cup Stadium right there in front of us. Now this pond is somewhat frozen. Good bit of ice, thin layer of ice on it. And by the way, I don't normally like to wear sunglasses when I'm filming, but that sun is bright today. We've had several days now of clear skies, which is just so unusual. I mean, look at that sky. It is just clear and blue. Yeah, well, look at this guy. Dragon. Couple of dragons. And they've still got their Christmas decorations up. So if you're visiting Korea, this is a good word to know. When you're out on your walks, 화장실. 화장실 is the restroom. And 입구 means entrance, with the arrow pointing that way. And of course, you've got the universal symbol right here. So it's right over there in that building, I guess. But that's another aspect of walkability that I think some people overlook. I will tell you that I have walked quite a bit through the city of London in the UK, and the availability of restrooms in London makes me really appreciate how available they are here in Seoul. But here, yeah, you can find public restrooms all over the place, not just in parks. There's always a toilet in subway stations. There are a lot of office buildings that allow you to go in and use the toilets, mostly the bigger ones, the big major office buildings. Smaller ones, it's hit or miss. Some of them have locks on the door, security code locks or whatever. So if you go to a Starbucks or whatever, you can always use the toilet in a Starbucks, the major coffee shop chains, no big deal. But the smaller ones, they'll restrict it to customers only, usually. But yeah, it's always easy to find facilities. Now we come to the next segment of our walk, the Bulgwang Stream. And see, it's frozen over too in some spots. Now this goes back to the infrastructure aspect of walkability. So this is a steep staircase, but the steps are all level, and you've got this rough surface here, non-slip surface on the edge. You'll see a lot of this stuff looks relatively recently constructed. You can still see the fresh soil here. And even these stones, they don't look worn, right? They don't look aged. And that's because there's a project underway right now. It's an ongoing project that's been going on the past 2 or 3 years, 3 years, I guess. I think it started in 2022, to kind of revamp all of the facilities around all of the streams in Seoul. And you can look at this footpath. I don't know if it comes across on camera, but this is a very, very fresh looking coat of paint on here. All the colors are very vibrant, not yet faded. That's a very recent thing. So there have been footpaths along the streams for some time, but yeah, they're just revitalizing it all right now, sprucing it up. So I don't know if you can make it out or not, but that sign on the far right, right there, points toward Hongdae University, Hongdae. So if you were to follow that road up there, that would take you there. But we're not going along the road. We're going to take another path through another green space. Okay, well, our path is blocked by heavy equipment. Yep, she's waving me on through. Okay, cool. Yep, 감사합니다. Yeah, we've got to go up along this road here. The park runs on the other side of the road. And there it is, our next green space, not far from the stream at all. This is the extreme west end of the Gyeonggi Line Forest Park. The Gyeonggi Line was originally a rail line that ran from Seoul north to Sinwiju, and that's where the name Gyeonggi comes from. Gyeong comes from Seoul. It was at the time called Gyeongsang, and Sinwiju, the Wi, gives it the other part of the name, Gyeonggi. Gyeongsang means walled city, and that's the name that Seoul had while the Japanese were here. The Japanese actually built the rail line. They got a concession from Gojong, who was the king, well, at the time he was the emperor of the Empire of Korea, the short-lived last stage of the Joseon dynasty. So he didn't have the funds to build the line himself, and the Japanese had already built the Gyeongbu rail line from Gyeongsang, Seoul, to Busan, and they wanted to build this line because it, A, would give them more influence over Korea. This is the early 20th century, before they formally annexed Korea and occupied it. So I think it was around 1902 or something that they started building it, and it was completed in 1906. And another reason they wanted it was for military purposes. They were anticipating a war with Russia, and a line up to the Chinese border through Korea would have been very beneficial to them for that. And throughout the Gyeonggi Line Forest Park, you can see little displays like this as a reminder of the original line. At the end of World War II, when Korea was liberated from Japanese occupation and then divided into North and South, the northern terminus of the line became Kaesong. Kaesong is a town that at the time was in the South. After the Korean War, the border changed and Kaesong became part of North Korea. So the northern terminus became Munsan. In 2009, the Gyeonggi Line was incorporated into the Seoul metropolitan subway system. And I guess it's at that time that they started putting it underground. This section of it was put underground. Most of the line is still above ground following the original route. You know, it's just, they've just incorporated the original route into the subway network. In 2009, Digital Media City was the terminus of the Gyeonggi Line. And you had to transfer to line 6 there at the DMC station. But then it was extended, well, they had a branch that went off to Seoul Station. But then the main line was extended to Gongdok Station in 2012. And then in 2014, it was further extended to Yongsan Station. And at that time, it was incorporated with the Jungang Line, the central line, which follows another section of old rail tracks and was incorporated into the network, the subway network, in 2005. So in 2012, they got linked up, and that's now the Gyeonggi Jungang Line. So then there was a question of what to do with the old railway tracks above ground, and the decision was to create a park. And that's what they did. They started work on the Gyeonggi Line Forest Park, and that was opened in sections from 2016. Well, you never know what you're going to find, huh? Ceramics and metal studio. Okay, so yeah, this part of the park is open. I guess it's just that stretch there in the middle that they're doing some work on. Cool. Railroad crossing, those are rare these days.
Of you, what hijacked my world at night, to a place in the past we've been cast out of. Now we're back in the fight. We're back on the train. The chain gang. Circumstance beyond our control. The phone, TV, and the news of the world got in the house like a pigeon from hell. Through sand in our eyes and descended like flies. put us back on the train. Back on the chain gang. Us to live like we do, bring me to my knees when I see what they've done to you. But I'll die as I stand here today, knowing that deep in my heart they'll fall to ruin one day for making us part. A picture of you. Ah, those were the happiest days of my life. Like a break in the battle was your part. Ah, in the wretched life of a lonely heart. Now we're back on the train. Chain gang.
That is Seoul Station right in front of us, but we're not going to Seoul Station. We are going over Seoul Station right here. This is Sowol-ro. Sowol-ro is also called like the Sky Walk or something like that. I think the Sky Garden. The best time to see this is in spring and summer when all of the stuff is nice and lush and green. But these are grapevines here, podo grapevines. And different kinds of plants are set up along the way here. Bushes, trees, flowers, all kinds of stuff. So winter isn't the best time to see it, but any time of year, this is a great way to get across Seoul Station from central Seoul on the east side to this west side. Before this was here, if you were on foot, you either had to go, around somewhere else or cut through the station and come out the back door and cross the crosswalk and all that. So it was a bit of a pain to get through here to here. But now this thing carries us from Namdaemun, actually just outside Namdaemun at Haehan Station to this side of Seoul Station. Now, this used to be a vehicle overpass. This was a shortcut for vehicles. I remember those days. And it was often full of cars. So I think it's much nicer having it as a overpass for pedestrians, for sure. It opened in 2017. And this is another one of those things I had no idea they were working on. Yeah, just imagine cars, I guess that was an on-ramp, yeah? Cars used to come up this way onto the overpass and they come down this way off of it. This building right here, this is the old Seoul Station. It was the active Seoul Station when I first arrived here in Korea, up until the early 2000s when it was shut down and replaced with the more modern building on the other side there. But this opened in 1925 and it replaced an old wooden building that was here before. And at the time, this was called Gyeongsong Station. Gyeongsong is the same name that we talked about earlier, the walled city or walled capital. It's where the names for the rail lines came from, the Gyeongbu, the Gyeonggi, and they both came here to Gyeongsang Station, and it got the name Seoul Station in 1947. Now it's an event space. They have exhibitions there. So this carries us on to just outside Namdaemun Market. And from there, we're gonna head off in that direction over toward Namsan, but we're not going up Namsan, we're going not down, we're going around Namsan on the last of our green space paths for today's walk. Namdaemun Market is right over there, just off over that way. But this path here takes us alongside a replica of the old city wall. This is part of the city wall trail, actually, because with Namdaemun Market there, you've got the gate, Namdaemun, Sungnaemun, I think it's called. The actual name, Namdaemun, is the colloquial name. It means Great South Gate. That's what everybody called it, but it wasn't the official name. So that was the south gate of the wall. And this bridge here, this overpass, basically follows the path of the old wall. And this is a replica of it. And this building right here used to be the Hilton Hotel, but it was sold a few years ago. Now, if you wanted to, you could keep going along Sowol-ro here, Sowol Street. There's a great scenic walk looking out over the city from the side of Namsan. It's lovely. I showed some of that in a video last year, one of my snowy day walks. And alternatively, you can go here into Namsan Park and follow the city wall trail. There's a path up to the Seoul Tower, the Inn Seoul Tower. That's an alternative. If you were up for the hike, that is a bit of a hike, let me tell you. But what I've opted to do is to stay at the bottom of the mountain. Well, the lower slope. And the entrance to the next path is right up this way. If you saw the Dongasu edition, pork cutlet edition of my favorite places, this was the first restaurant I went to. Of all the infrastructure improvements they've made over the last 20 years, 25 years for pedestrians in particular, walkers like me, this is by far my favorite. This used to be a road, a street for vehicular traffic. And there's a cable car coming down. I think it's full. The cable car station is right there. So if you're ever in Seoul and you want to walk along this path, all you got to do is get to the cable car station, and the entrance is just a little up the street from there. It's not far. And then right down there, those buildings there, that's the Dongas town, the pork cutlet town Another of the places I visited in that favorite places video is there. Yeah, I didn't know they were converting this over to pedestrians only, and you saw the sign. There are no bicycles allowed, no mopeds allowed, motorcycles, none of that. This is 100% pedestrian only. Now you do see some vehicles coming in now and again, maintenance crews. So I couldn't find an exact date as to when they did this conversion. It was some point before 2010, I believe, early 2000s. I saw a reference to some work they did here in Namsan Park to improve it, so I think it happened at that time. But I first stumbled on it 10 years ago, 2015. And here's one of the many viewpoints they have up here. Many? Okay, one of a few. So this road keeps going around this way, around where the hill juts out here, and around the other side, back over that way. But this right here is a shortcut. It will cut about 15 minutes off of your walk if you're going from end to end. It's also the way to get to Namsan Tower. So there is or Seoul Tower, and Seoul Tower, just right up here at the top of the hill, is a path that goes up the hill here, up Namsan, to the tower. And you can see here is the road that we just came off of. It looks like it might just be from there to there, very short, but it's not. It takes a long roundabout way to get back this way. Here's the path that goes to Seoul Tower. It doesn't look like this all the way. These stone steps end just up there somewhere, and then you get a dirt path. But there are a number of steps on the path, and it is a bit steep, so it's a bit of a climb going up. This is one of the larger outdoor exercise facilities you'll find. They're all over the city, in small parks and big parks. Usually they're just little small areas, no bigger than this, but this one is huge. Got all kinds of equipment. Look at this guy go over here. Cool. And so this road comes out here on this one, and this is the one I mentioned earlier. It used to be two-way. Now it's one way, and they've got a little booth up here controlling traffic going through. I don't think you can just drive through anymore. You used to be able to use this as like a shortcut, if you will, from this side of Namsan over to Sowol-ro on the other side. It came out over by the Yongsan Library, just across from the Hilton Hotel, basically. And this here is the National Theater. So if you ever come up this way from Namdaemun along this path, and you get here to this endpoint by the National Theater, you have options. Up this way takes you toward Dongguk University and Dongguk University Station on line 3. And then you go this way, and you can go around to the other side of this hill to Bottigoge Station on line 6, or turn south, just around the curve here and to the right, like that. And that takes you toward Hanamdong and the street to Itaewon and Hangangjin Station on line 6. But for now, we are going to cross the street here and actually go into the grounds of the banyan tree, because the City Wall Trail passes through here because the city wall used to cross through here somewhere. And there's a long section of it off just on the other side of that driving range there. If you can see the green nets on the camera. I don't know if you can. So the City Wall Trail connects to the banyan tree property. So you have to come on through the parking lot here and down this entranceway to continue on over there. And that one-way street, if you go up it a little bit, the City Wall Trail continues up there. There's a section of the City Wall standing there that you can't miss. And the reason I want to follow this path right now toward the City Wall Trail is because that's going to take me home. My house isn't too far from here. So this is the clubhouse for the banyan tree. I guess anybody can make reservations at the hotel, I assume, but the clubhouse is a membership thing, rather pricey. And here you go, the City Wall Trail, Hanyang-do-song. Hanyang was another name for Seoul before it was changed to Gyeongsong. Here's the putting green right here. By far the best thing about living in this area is the trails back here, are the trails back here. And this view is one of the good things. Looking out toward Hanam-dong right there. But yeah, I filmed a couple of videos back here last year, and I'll link those down in the description. But yeah, if you wanted to, from this point, you could continue on the City Wall Trail off in that direction. The wall, the end of the wall is just right there on the other side of the staircase. I'm almost out of battery, so I'm not going to take you over there to film it. And you can go in this direction, and that will take you to Seoul Forest or several points in between if you don't want to go all the way. And I'll link the video where I did that. I walked from here toward Seoul Forest. I didn't quite go all the way, but I got within sight of it to the end there. It was raining on me in that video. So I hope you enjoyed this long walk through some of Seoul's green spaces. We did have to get out into the street for a little bit, and it wasn't entirely green all the way. And yeah, it is winter, so the greenery is minimal. But yeah, if you come through here in the spring and the summer, it's really great to walk through, to forget almost that you're in the city. It's easy to do sometimes. Thanks for coming with me. Thanks for watching. Thanks for liking. Thanks for subscribing. And I'll see you next time. Bye-bye.
Now we're back on the train. Back on the chain.